Hey, what's up? Long time no see. This is the Leafs Convo for this Sunday, September 21st, 2025. Norman, London, Mike in Buffalo. It's been months and months and months, Mike, but here we are. Training camp is underway, and you can smell hockey just around the corner. We can talk a little bit about the baseball playoffs coming up because we have divided interests, but we are unified when it comes to the Maple Leafs. Long time no see, my friend. How are you?
Well, a bit very busy summer, and but when you're in August, all you're doing is looking at the calendar and like, when does training camp start? When
Yeah.
does the season start? It's like, so yeah. I mean, it was very busy. Everything going on with Hockey Hot Stove. Go and see us at Hockey Hot Stove. But yeah, now we're getting into it. The preseason game this afternoon in Canada, and 6 games. Thankfully, that's all there is, and then we get going.
My friends, it's so nice to have you here. Leave a comment in the comment section. We'll try to get you on. We're reestablishing season 8, believe it or not, Mike. And, you and I were talking about how we calculate all of these years that we have been together. Do we go back to the hook in 2012? Do we go to our first inclination of the podcast on which
Talk show.
platform? Talk shoe, and we were also on a variety of things back in 2014. So I mean we're 15 years, 11 years, but when you come down to where we really started things, and that was on YouTube in 2019, season 8 begins in earnest. Let's talk a little bit about, well, we'll get to Mitch Marner in a little bit, but again, because he's gone, but Anthony Stolarz, from what I'm reading, this guy would like to wrap up a contract and wrap it up, not necessarily soon, but wrap it up in the right way so that he can kind of ingrain himself financially and in terms of his future
Yeah.
into the Maple Leafs fold, and obviously wants to be the number one guy. What's your assessment on that?
Well, I mean, I haven't changed my opinion of Anthony Stolarz in the sense that, I mean, I didn't expect him to have the year that he had. I think it was 924 save percentage. He had an excellent year, but the concerns that I had about Stolarz going into the season last year reared their ugly head. And what that was his the ability that he has always had trouble with, which is availability. And he's had chronic knee problems. I mean, I was related a story from a Philadelphia Flyers writer friend that he injured his knee getting out of his car. So that's, and okay, he's a big guy. He's a good goaltender when he's healthy. He can't be overworked. Having a tandem of him and Joseph Wall, I think is, 1A, 1B scenario with them splitting the duty is fine. That's not a goaltender that I'm spending tons of money on. And right now you've got Wall making, I think, $3.66 million, the start of a 3-year deal. Stolarz is 31 years old. His injury issues, we just chronicled. He played the most games he played in his career last year. It was over 30. He got injured in the playoffs, but you can't calculate that in because Sam Bennett is a scumbucket who elbowed him in the head. So what do you pay him? Like, if it's me and he's a 31-year-old, I'm saying 3 years and probably in the 4 to 4.5 range.
What does he think he's worth, though, Mike?
Well, I mean, I'm sure his agent's probably asking for 4 or 5 years, and I'm sure his agent's probably asking for over $5 million. If they sign him to that deal, I think it's dumb. But
Right.
They do have the luxury of having some flexibility on the cap now that certain number 16 is no longer playing in Toronto. So they like him. They trust him. They think he's a good guy in the locker room. So I think they want to get him signed, and Treliving sounded like that's what they wanted to do. But I'm just cautious in terms of the term of the deal and the amount, less the amount than the term.
The Leafs have more leverage in this circumstance, don't they?
Sure. I mean, he's never really been paid very well. I mean, he's been paid, but he's never been paid big money. And this contract is his first opportunity to make big money. It's a question of how, where they go and how much. So, if you're saying $5 million on a 3-year deal, okay,
Right.
But the term is the thing here. I would hate it if they go 4 or 5 years.
Well, the thing is, you don't want a prevailing contract or lack thereof tempering this season for a guy like Stolarz, because you're going to need him and Wall at their best to get to where you want to go. We've seen how that works out for both player and team in the past, and you're going to get your 100 points most likely. But you'd rather have. You'd rather be on the same page, would you not? But then again, it can't come at the expense of paying too much money or offering too much term to a guy who probably won't fulfill the obligation.
Right. I mean, it was a good tandem. Wall picked up for Stolarz when he was injured during the middle of the season. He was out for 2 months. And that was, that's a significant chunk of time. Remember, last year, Dennis Hildeby had to play. Matt Murray had to play. Joseph Wall probably was out early. He had to play more games than I think they expected him to play, because the way they were going with Stolarz, it looked like Stolarz was going to play 50-plus games. So I think they're going to have to do a delicate balance here and pretty much play them 50-50. But when it's a tandem goaltender, you don't pay that guy $6 million. He's, you have to slot him in at what a good tandem goalie is. And to me, it's, 3 to 4. 4 years, I think, is too much, but they may have to go there. But if it's 4 years, I want the AAV less than 5.25, like Mike V is saying here.
Yeah, Mike V in the chat. Nice to see you, my friend. I'm fine with 4 times 5.25 per season, and that's a little bit excessive in terms of how Mike views this. How do you think it shakes out, Mike? Where do you think the player and the organization shake hands on a term and a cost, and allow allow Stolarz to go and play, and the organization to focus on other things?
I think the organization probably was shooting for 3. His agent was probably shooting for 5, and then they probably end up in the middle at 4. I'll say that it ends up at 4 times 5. I think 5.25 is a little much. Remember, guys like Carl Vejmelka, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen are making less than $5 million, and does
Stolarz have 4 years in them?
No, I don't think so. I mean, but and it's not because it's strictly the injuries. It's like I don't know whether his knees can withstand playing 4 more years after this year. Because remember, he's got a year left on his contract. So you're talking about him being at 32 when this deal starts.
It's the price of doing business in pro sports, both literally and figuratively. This is the Convo. Thanks for being here, season 8. If you're in the chat, it's so nice of you to join us. Mike and I back in the saddle doing this on a weekly basis. And if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, or if you've unsubbed because you haven't seen us for the last 3 months, come on back. There's just like so much to talk about when it comes to this team. I mean, a mosaic of forwards that the brass went out and got, hopefully collectively chipping in to offset what's lost offensively, and Mr. Marner going to Las Vegas. And I'm here for it. I'm really excited about it. Morgan Rielly has a lot written about him of late too. Apparently, he's kind of coming to the table with, a confession that last season wasn't his best, and that he's kind of ashamed of it, and he'd like to get over it. And not only is he talking the talk, it looks like he's walking the walk. The organization has noticed that he looks better. He's lost some weight, and it's kind of a reset and a new determination to kind of get his career back on track and be that integral part of the Leafs blue line that he really, really needs to be for this team to be successful.
Yeah, I mean, I understand, after the season, apparently Treliving talked to Rielly, and Rielly wasn't happy with his game, and Berube wasn't happy. I mean, I don't think he had as bad a year as people made it out to be. I thought once they got Brandon Carlo from Boston, I think he played well. I think he played well in the playoffs. It didn't end well because the Florida Panthers beat him into the ice. They did that to the entire Leafs defense. So by game 7, I mean, they were worn to a frazzle. But I think he realizes that with Marner gone, he's going to be the point guy on the power play. He had 41 points last year. That's going to go up because being the quarterback on PP1, he's probably going to end up ending with maybe 50, 55 points. Leona, I'm sorry, I'm mispronouncing it.
Leona Thundera.
Yeah. He never has had a big shot from the point. his skill is being a power play quarterback. If you look at that power play, it's going to be, gee, what a shock.
Right.
Matthews and Nylander on the wings, on the half boards. It's going to be Tavares probably in the bumper, and it's going to be Matthew Nyes in front of the net being a bull. So that's, and basically all he has to do is get the shot on net, get the shot through. It doesn't have to be a howitzer. Sometimes it's better that it's not. But, I think he's very capable of scoring 10 to 15 goals. His best year was 20. I don't think we're going to see that. But, he's going to be the power play quarterback. He's going to play, if not top pairing minutes, probably, him, that right. Pairing of him and Carlo and McCabe and Tanev. They're probably going to balance out. One will be the shutdown pairing. But, Norm, it's funny. I don't think we could say in any one of the 8 years that we did this show that there was we were always like, oh my God, this defense. Oh my God, the pairings. It's Rielly and Carlo. It's McCabe and Tanev. It's Ekman Larson and Simone Benoit. And the only, is okay, is Henry Thrun going to make it? Is Philippe Myers going to? They're probably going to keep 7 or 8, and it's stable and it's good. And it's good teams have stability on the blue line.
Well, it's stable as long as they're healthy, Mike.
Yes.
And we know that the season's as they usually call it, a war of attrition. And there are times where you're strong, other times you're piecemealing, grouped together just to keep the train on the track. So we'll see how it goes. Mike, looking back on Morgan Rielly's career, at what point do we feel like we were fulfilled with what he was delivering? We've always wanted more for a guy who really is who he is. And I think we need to get comfortable with accepting that, especially where he's at now in his career with the Maple Leafs. What is it, 12, 13 years? I mean, it's been
drafted in 2012.
Yeah, it's been a long run, yet we're still disappointed in this guy. Like, we know who he is, but we expect more out of someone that we know cannot deliver. Just accept it and move on.
I think that the disappointment in Rielly it's the infection of the disappointment overall in the team. If you look at it, I mean, the first few years of his career, were sort of a feeling out process. 2018, when they made the playoffs, he had 52 points, 72 points in 2019. He had an injury plagued 2019-20.
But this is about more than points,
right?
Is it not? Because he's look, in terms of how he produces offensively, he's up there and has always been up there. But he's also left a lot to be desired, with fans coming at him from every which way, and in many cases unfairly, and in some cases justified.
Well, I mean, okay, and I've always said this. If you're talking about a Stanley Cup caliber defense, Morgan Rielly is a really good number 2. Yeah. He's not a great number 1. And good luck. Unless you draft a number 1, you're not getting a number 1. It's virtually impossible. You can't get a Pronger, or I mean, okay, back in the day you could get a Pronger. He was traded from Hartford to St. Louis to Edmonton to Philadelphia. Okay, those guys moved around. Nowadays, everybody recognizes the number 1 defense. I mean, Noah Dobson got $9.5 million, and he's not a good number 1 defenseman. He got $9.5 million times 8 years from Montreal. It's a big investment. It's tough to get those players. Cale Makar isn't going anywhere unless he wants to test free agency in a couple of years. Adam Fox, Quinn Hughes, they're only going to go where they want to go. And I just, right now, I think we'll talk about this on future shows. I think this team is focused on the 2026 free agent market. If a certain guy numbered 97 hits the market, we won't waste our breath talking about that. But everybody is talking about it until he signs a deal. But in terms of defense, it's pretty tough to get a number 1 defenseman if you don't draft one. And Rielly has been an adequate number 1. He's a better number 2. Right. But can they get that number 1? I don't think so.
Mike Shields, when Rielly stops skating, he is ineffective. Mike, I don't recognize the name if you're new to the show. Okay. Thanks for being here. And if you've been around it, I've just confused you with somebody else. My sincere apologies. Stick around with us. We have lots of content to come. Season 8 of your favorite Leafs Podcast is underway. The Leafs Convo continues on, takes a licking and keeps on ticking, Mr. Augello. I just said, and I think we all need to reconcile this, that Morgan Rielly is who he is. However, with coming into camp a little in better shape and with a new determination to kind of to shut up the naysayers once and for all, could we see more out of him?
Yeah, I think you will. I mean, okay, he's not all of a sudden going to become, superstar number one defenseman. And he's not going to make the Canadian Olympic team.
Right.
4 years ago, he probably would have made if they had gone. Where was it? It was now Korea was 2018. I think it was China. He would have if the NHL had gone to the Olympics. He would have been on the Canadian Olympic team 4 years ago. He's not at that point in his career. He's 31 years old. Is he over the hill? No. I mean, this team needs him to lug the puck. They need him to be a little bit more responsible defensively. Carlo paired with him, who's a defensive defenseman and a big body, helps him with that. On the power play, he's going to have to, lug the puck. It's either going to be him or Nylander, because I don't think sometimes Matthews, I think they want Nylander or him to lug the puck. Sometimes it was a lot of times last year because of the 5 forward power play. Marner carried the puck up the zone. They're going to need Rielly to do that. But it helps that Rielly had been the power play quarterback for years. So I don't think the transition back to the number one power play is going to be that difficult for him.
Mm-hmm. On paper, the Leafs defense, in the same fashion, we were generally happy with it and content with it, and we trusted it through most of last season, may be able to continue on with that role and be a bunch of stalwarts back there as the forward course tries to figure it out with the absence of number 16. But again, it's dependent on who performs and who's healthy enough to perform. Mitch Marner's off to Las Vegas, Mike. That's 102 points and mediocre playoff career that has to be replaced by just an assortment of forwards who were brought in. So not necessarily heralded moves. And I remember July 1st, a lot of Leaf fans were disappointed with some of these signings. But this is to TBD, right? To be determined on how these guys are going to be used, and we may be pleasantly surprised in the end. And I gotta say, Mike, this has to be the first and only hockey team in the history of anything to have 2 Dakotas on the team at the same time.
Well, I'll say this because I like the I like the moves that they made. I still think there could be another move to make. The name of Jack Roslovic was mentioned prominently during the summer. He's still unsigned, and I just found out he's changed agents. So there's maybe a possibility. I know that Treliving said he's not looking outside the organization, but I mean, right now the big thing is, and no one person is going to fill the hole of Mitch Marner during the regular season. It's impossible. Berube was making indications that Max Domi was going to be the guy that they would slot in on the right wing on that top line. And I think that will work because I don't like Domi at center. I like him better on the wing. He's a playmaker. He's played with Matthews before. I think that combo would work and be very effective. Michelli, there's a lot more there than the year that he had in Utah. He was third or fourth in Calder Trophy voting. I think it was 3 years ago. And then he had a 57-point season with Arizona. When they went to Utah, things just didn't work out. They sold on him. They traded him for a 3rd round pick. I think there's something there, but I don't think you want to put him in a top line role right off the bat. Then you're setting expectations way too high. I think play him on the second line with Tavares and Nylander. They seem to be giving Bobby McMahon that opportunity right now. If that doesn't work out, then they may put Michelli on the 3rd line. But of the 3 guys that they brought in,
and that's Nick Waugh and Dakota Joshua as well,
and you can't have more Berube type players than you have in Nick Waugh and Dakota Joshua. Dakota Joshua, which, go back in the day, for some reason I think he was a Dave Nonis draft pick. and he went through 4 years at Ohio State, and Kyle Dubas did not sign him because and I think they traded him for basically future considerations, and they ended up getting nothing for him. And
He wasn't part of the Kyle Dubas mold of a hockey
right,
player who
he's
we've all found out
right.
are contributors, but really not game breakers.
Right, he's a big body, and for some reason, Dubas likes smaller players. Okay, fine. He's not a particularly skilled player, but if you notice, he worked his way to the NHL in St. Louis. He went to Vancouver. He, earned a big contract with a good year when his contract and then they. I think they needed to clear cap space to sign Elias Pettersson and sign Brock Besser. So the Leafs had the benefit of bringing Joshua back. I think he's a perfect fit with them on the third line as a big third line checker. Wah has scored double figures in goals the last 4 years. I think he's the perfect number 3 right shot center who can win faceoffs. So these guys really fit the mold of what a Brewer Bay team is. So now up the middle, you have Matthews, Tavares, Wah, and then Scott Lawton as your fourth line center.
Right.
Steven Lorenz playing on the fourth line. I mean, I think the challenge with this team is, are they going to be able to score enough?
Right.
And that's always a challenge. Without Marner and the 102 points, there's going to be more onus on Matthew Nyes, more onus on balanced scoring in the third and fourth lines. But if you look, this team has not traditionally gotten a lot of offense from their third and fourth lines, and they need to get that.
Mm-hmm. The Leafs were top 10 in offense last season, and that was it primarily because of a down year from Austin Matthews. And when I say top 10, it's pretty damn good. But they could have been, top 3, top 4, top 5, and if Matthews scores another 30 goals. But I mean, how often are you going to get a 69 goal season from Mr. Matthews? This year, I mean, there's another guy who is going to want to bounce back a little bit, kind of in the same vein as a Morgan Rielly. So the bulk of the offense, Nylander, pencil him in for 35, possibly 40, 45. Maybe he'll crowd 50. A bounce back season from Matthews. Tavares, I mean, here's a guy who takes less money just to be a Maple Leaf. He's literally Mr. Maple Leaf.
Yeah, and I don't know if you can depend on Tavares to match 38 goals, but I think you can depend on him for 25 to 30. I mean, you're hoping for growth from Matthew Nyes.
Right. Bobby McMahon scored 20 last season, Mike. I mean, if he's healthy, why not 25?
Well, he scored. The funny thing is, he scored 20, and then he didn't score a goal in his last 21 games. 8 games in the regular season. All 13 playoff games did not score. So he just stopped at a certain point. They need more consistency out of him. Right. They're gonna give him the opportunity on the second line as the big body playing with Tavares and Nylander. But if that doesn't work, then he probably goes down to the third line and they put Michelli up there. So
do you think with Michelli, Wah, and Joshua, you can get 40 goals out of those 3 guys?
I think so. I think that's, and then you're hoping to get something other than just jam out of your fourth line, and it's like Steven Lorenz, Lawton. I mean, right now they're playing Nick Robertson, and Nick Robertson scored the only 2 goals in the scrimmage on Saturday. It's like I would give him an opportunity higher in the lineup, but I know why they don't, because defensively he's never, and he's not a big body. I mean, I'm wondering. That's the one thing here with their roster. They actually have too many forwards, but they have too many of the bottom 6 forwards. Kali Yarncroke, David Camp,
Michael Pezzetta.
Michael Pezzetta. Somebody mentioned Michael Pezzetta in the chat. If Michael Pezzetta, I mean, he may make the 23-man roster.
Right.
If he play him against Florida, play him against Ottawa, so he can run Ridley Gregg into the boards, and everybody will love him for it. But the guy is he's just a buzzsaw. He's like he's a better, younger version of Ryan Reeves, and Ryan Reeves was a waste.
I was watching some. Sorry, Mike. I was watching. Ryan Reeves. We have enough to lament on Mitch Marner. Ryan Reeves. It's over, Mike. It's over.
Thankfully it's over. But I mean, if ironically, and I've written about this, and I'm going to write about it again. The first year of Brad Treliving's tenure as general manager with the Leafs, the signings that he made were terrible. The Tyler Bertuzzi 1-year deal, fine, that was okay. The Max Domi 1-year signing. That was fine. But if you look, he signed David Camp to a multi-year extension. He's basically, I think if they
Why did he do that? Dial back to that moment.
stability,
What did it?
stability, because
But here we are.
right, and that's the thing. It's like, I mean, I don't think, if Camp at that point, Camp was a number 3 center for them. Remember, he was being used by Sheldon Keefe as a number 3 center,
Right.
and you don't anticipate that you're gonna have a new coach who's gonna use a player differently, but he doesn't fit Berube's system, and I think that if they don't trade him before the beginning of the season, he's going to end up getting placed on waivers and going down to the Marlies. And then they can bury at least $1 million of his salary.
Are they shopping him? Do you think they're shopping him right now?
I think they'd be overjoyed to get rid of him. But no.
Okay.
I'm against giving away Calle Jarnkrok because I think Calle Jarnkrok is a useful player. I mean, maybe he, we know he has injury issues, but he played okay in the playoffs. I mean, he's only making $2 million. He's on the final year of his deal. I would rather trade David Camp than trade Calle Jarnkrok or Nick Robertson. I mean, Nick Robertson scored 15 goals last year. So, and with
Speaking
the
of, yeah, I wanted to ask you about him. What's
Yeah.
going on with him? Because I was going to get to this. Chris Johnson, I read a lot of his stuff. I watch a lot of his stuff. Obviously, one of the top hockey reporters there is, period. He suggested that it might be time for the Leafs to find a new place for this guy to play, and that a change of scenery would benefit not only him but the organization, because they can move on from a guy who they just can't seem to get rid of, but also can't find a place for.
Well, I mean, I don't think that I'm not against that, but I'm against giving him away. And that's the thing. This is a guy who in the last 2 years has scored 29 goals in limited ice time. I think if he goes someplace else and they play him in a top 9 role, which, they shouldn't be fearful of, he's going to score. So it's
what does it say? What does it say, Mike, when the Leafs go out and bring in this, litany of forwards, but you have one here who can score goals? Why can he not fit into this mosaic and be someone substantial?
Well, early in his career, it was durability. Now I think it's the fact that he's not big and he's not particularly good defensively. And what he benefits you in terms of offense, he gives away in terms of his defense. So he's not strong along the wall. So, if he
can improve, is he not working on improving his game?
He has improved. He has improved, but I don't think to the point. I mean, he has top 6 skill. That's the problem. But they're playing him in a bottom 6 role, and he has a top 6 shot, and he has speed, and he hustles. But I just don't think they're ever going to give him the opportunity. But what they have to do is get the return for him that is consistent, and not as injury prone as he has been in the past. It seems to have gotten past that, David. But defensively, I think he's middle of the road at best. And that's, with them stressing defense, that's not going to fly. But him on a 4th line making a little less than $2 million. I mean, if you could get a 2nd or 3rd round draft pick, I think they would do it. If you could get a younger player, I mean, he's 24 years old.
Right.
If you get a comparably aged player that fits better with the team, I think they would do that. But he's got retainable years. So he's a player that if there's somebody out there that thinks that, okay, I can get 25 goals out of him, they would make that deal. But right now, I think that they're not going to give him away.
Right. So it's just a bizarre situation. They don't necessarily think he's worth major minutes and to become a focal point of the offense because he lacks so much, but they think he's worth something to someone. Yeah, it's amazing. We talk about Rielly and his mediocre shot. Is that not something you can work on and get better at? I mean, you're a professional. We talk about Nick Robertson's, lack of defensive capabilities, which are costing him opportunities. Why the hell would you not be working on these kinds of things? I mean, look, there's some innate qualities to being a really good defensive or two-way player because you just understand the game. But to me, you can still, if you're not wanting to learn these things and get better, so you can, drive a wedge between, what's holding you up and where you have an opportunity to go. There's a lazy component to that, Mike. I don't know the guy personally. We know he can score, but holy shit, if you leave things to be desired, fulfill those desires and show these guys.
I don't think that he's the same player that he was 3 years ago. I think he has improved. I think he has built on his game. You see the work there. You see that he's more tenacious. He's not a big player, but he doesn't shy away like he used to.
There was that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he did shy away from physicality because he got freight trained a couple times. One against Ottawa, and it injured him his shoulder. I think Matt Roy in LA freight trained him, and he was out for weeks. So like he had to be more cognizant. And the one thing that Marner had was that innate ability to sense areas of danger, and he could avoid it. Robertson early in his career didn't have that. He seems to be better now, but it's all about, okay, I don't think the coach is ever going to give him a crack at the top six. But I don't think he's a good fit as a bottom six guy. So, could you trade him to a team that, like, say Chicago, that's looking for young players that can score? Sure. But you need to get something back for him. And a team like Chicago, or a team like San Jose, or a team like Anaheim. Yeah, but if Dallas wants to bring him in to play with his brother, I don't, but they have to get something back in return. And if they don't, I'm not giving away 14 or 15 goals because, that's valuable.
Mike, who are your top six right now?
Top six right now would be first line. No, this is mine, not what the top line would be Nyes, Matthews, and Domi. Second line would be Michelli, Tavares, and Nylander. What it's going to be, it sounds like, based on every team now is putting together what they think is going to be their starting lineup from the first day of training camp. Buffalo's doing it here. Toronto seems to be doing it there. And right now it sounds like Domi will be back at practice on Sunday. It'll probably be, as I said, Nyes, Matthews, and Domi, and then the second line will be McMahon, Tavares, and Nylander.
Well, Domi's another player who on some days dazzles and on other days frustrates. Right? I mean, you're at this point in your career, you talk, Mike, the word stability is just going to be something that, we'll sink our teeth into, and then fret that is teetering on the brink of destruction throughout the season. But be stable, for God's sakes. You've been down these roads before. Be stable.
And
reliable.
When did Max Domi play his best hockey? At the end of the 24 season, when he was playing with Tyler Bertuzzi and Matthews on the top line. Mm-hmm. That was, he was on the wing. He didn't have to be concerned about defense as much. It was mostly his playmaking ability, and he had played with Bertuzzi for most of the year. And that second half of the year, when that line was together and going into the playoffs against Boston, that was the best that he played. At center, I think he's weak. I think he's I think he's as bad defensively at center as Nick Robertson is on the wing. But
Michael Kirkpatrick, rather see Domi playing elsewhere.
That's not going to happen.
We've already started.
He's got 3 years left in his contract. Not that he's untradeable, but I don't think they want to trade him. I think he just needs to fit into the niche that he can fit in, and that, I think, is playing the wing in a top six role.
Where does Easton Cowan fit into the picture? I mean, it's not like you have to shove him into a prime role right now, but he's a big time prospect, and you want this guy to develop the right way, whether it's a little longer, a little less, but he is going to have to play meaningful hockey for this team for many years to come. So where does he fit into this picture? We'll wrap up the hockey talk here, talk a little baseball, and get out of here.
Well, he's been skating with Dakota Joshua and Nick Waugh. So, I mean, I think they're going to give him an opportunity to try to make the club as sort of a third line guy. Don't put a lot of offensive pressure on him. I mean, we know what he did in London. In London, I think his game, it's not Marner like, but he's a playmaker, but he's feisty, and he's got good hockey sense. I mean, I'm not saying that he has no chance of making this team. We'll see, like, once Domi is there, what line combinations they put together. I think they're going to give him an opportunity, but I also think they're going to say, when in doubt, you can go down to the Marlies and play 16, 17 minutes a night and play first power play and develop. And that's probably the best way. And then if you light it up in the AHL, then you come up in November or December.
Isn't that what the minors are for?
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
Yes.
he's not Austin Matthews, and he's not going to be playing the NHL, straight out of signing a contract, or even Mitch Marner. But Will Nylander played for the Marlies. Did he not win a Calder Cup with them too, or was that the year?
No.
No, but again, he had some time to season, and it's not like Cowan's services are required right now. They will be. So, I mean, the minors can be a good place for these guys to kind of get their feet wet in terms of the pro game and get some momentum going.
It didn't hurt that young group 10 years ago. Connor Brown, Zach Hyman,
right. That's
Nylander,
right.
Nylander came in after the World Junior in 2015, played almost a year with the Marlies. It did not hurt them. So I think Cowan playing in a bigger role with the Marlies, with a group, there's some good players there who could be on the Leafs radar in a year or two. I think I like Jacob Quillen. I like Hames. There's, William Villeneuve is taking a step forward. There's some prospects there. They're not big prospects.
Right.
They're not it's not going to blow the doors off like Nylander and Marner and those guys did a few years ago, but they have useful players. They don't need superstars, but Cowan could be a very good player, but give it time.
Are you optimistic about the season ahead, Mike, when you look at how the Atlantic has improved? I mean, we know Ottawa is going to be a real thorn in the Leafs side. Montreal, they are talented. Florida will fight you until its last breath. Tampa is always pretty good. I mean, you have the Sabres. The Sabres are who they are, but the division, I believe, is going to be tougher, and I'm not speaking out of turn or telling tales out of school. How do you think the Leafs fit into that? And we can go on about predictions as we get closer to the beginning of the regular season. But how do you think the Leafs are going to fit in compared to how they fit in last year?
I think they're going to be top 3 in the Atlantic again. I'm not saying they're going to win the division. I think that they're adjusting to a more Berube-like team. That they may not mean that they're going to be as dynamic offensively, but they have the offensive weapons. I mean, you're going to have to say everything is going to depend on Austin Matthews being
30 plus goals from him again this season.
Yeah,
I mean, it'll work, but it won't work.
They're going to need him to score 45 to 50 goals.
Right.
If with Marner not being there, they're going to need Matthews to get back to the Matthews that has been there consistently over the last few years.
But the Leafs can control how they put themselves together, and we can believe they'll play in the same way that they did last year, that set them up so well going into the playoffs. Mm-hmm. But teams around them are, like I said, they're improving. I mean, how we can't account for just how good Montreal is going to become, whether it's incremental or they're just a huge blast and they take over the division. It's just going to be a dogfight, Mike. And do you think the Leafs are ready to contend with opposition that's gotten better over the offseason?
Tampa Bay is a year older, and we're talking about a team that has a lot of guys in their late 20s and early 30s. They're still good, but they're a year older. Florida will be dealing without Matthew Tkachuk for the first half of the year. He'll come back in December or January and play for Team USA at the Olympics. I think Ottawa could probably stay about the same. They're going to need good health, and they're going to need Ullmark to play like he did last year. Montreal could take a step back. I mean,
so I'm overvaluing everybody right now.
Yeah, I mean, not every team is going to be. It's not always linear that they're going to just keep going like this. There's going to be peaks and valleys, and I don't think that the Leafs are as dynamic as they were last year. But I do think they're still good enough to be in top 3 in the Atlantic, and I think they conceivably could be a better playoff team than they were a year ago.
Yeah, I'm excited for the season to come, Mike. I really am, and it's all about the execution and then the results. However the hell they do that, and if they're favorable, then I'm all for it. But we know that there are players who want to continue the momentum that they've created in their careers through this season. Guys who want to be better than they were last season. Others who, are looking for big money from an organization because they feel they can be, stability for the organization. So we shall see how it all kind of comes together. Happy with Treliving, happy with Berube as well. I mean, these Berube's second year behind the bench, going to give him another opportunity to, kind of immerse himself into the Leafs culture and gain more respect from his players. So here we are.
Yeah, I mean, I have little complaint about the general manager. Like I said, after year one, I think he's made smart moves. Bringing in Tanev, getting Tavares signed to the very friendly deal, extending Matthew Nyes for a long term. There's stability now. I mean, the clown show that was precipitated by Darren Ferris and Paul Marner over the last year. I mean, I think many Leaf fans are glad to be rid of the drama that was Mitch Marner, especially after that interview he gave to Mark Masters. I think it was earlier this month or last month, when he basically lumped Leaf fans into the group that was terrorizing him after the first round of the playoffs. I've never seen somebody looking more for an excuse to leave. And, I continue to say, and maybe I'm wrong, on January 23rd, when the Leafs play Vegas, he will get a John Tavares in Nassau Coliseum type reception at Scotiabank Arena. He's going to get viscerally booed, and he deserves it, because you could have just left and said, I appreciated my time in Toronto, but basically it's like, well, the Toronto fans, it's a passionate fan base, and they were throwing garbage on my lawn, so that's the reason I was worried about my family's safety. Bull crap.
I mean, I'm not surprised it ended that way, Mike.
I'm not.
I didn't think it was going to go out with class, knowing the player, knowing the parents, knowing the representation. He's gone, right? It should be a weight off of the collective shoulders of the organization's fan base and anybody else who pays attention to this team. And obviously, we'll have to, reconcile the divorce when we see each other again, and that will be done. But it's not unlike other circumstances, right? When Juan Soto didn't re-sign with the Yankees, joined the Mets. I mean, that was really tough for him to come back and show his face at Yankee Stadium.
If Mitch Marner had signed with Buffalo or Ottawa or Montreal, that would be like Juan Soto. Because
I'm saying that in jest. I mean, the guy was on the team for one season. Okay, just looking at this damn finish here to the season, right? I mean, what is it? Another week and a bit. I mean, the Blue Jays pick a great time to strike up a losing streak, right? And this is after they had won 6, so they're really 6-4 in their past 10. It's push comes to shove time, right? This is where you have to do it, and you have no other choice but to eke it out and to fulfill what the season looked like it was going to be for most of it. So this is going to be a struggle for the Blue Jays, in that a lot of these guys, they do have some experience, but a lot of them don't. They don't have the experience of having a lead and holding on to it when things get really, really pressure packed. The Yankees, on the other hand, have done this before, right? So they're kind of in a good position right now, but it really still comes down to how the Blue Jays wrap this thing up. Last word to you on the baseball, the playoff drive.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at the schedule, because both teams have 6 games left, and the Blue Jays are up. But I think it's more important for the Blue Jays to win the AL East than is the Yankees.
Oh, for sure.
But in terms of schedule, the Yankees finished with 6 at home against the White Sox and the Orioles.
Right.
And the Blue Jays finish with 6 games against the Red Sox and the Rays. And we know all Blue Jays fans out there know they've always had a tough time against Tampa Bay. I don't know why.
Well, they split at that
at
sorry,
that
Steinbrenner
Steinbrenner.
Field. I was
Oh, hey, they had no choice. They had no choice.
yeah, I know. They split, and that's a victory. That's a
Yes.
victory. Under any other circumstance, at any other time in the season, that's a victory. But dropping those two games after winning the first two has set them back, and then going into Kansas City and laying a bloody egg. I
Yeah.
mean, come on, man. Like this is your time to get it done. But the offense is shriveled up right around the time the Yankees are just kind of picking away. I don't think the Yankees are going to run the table here, but I think they'll
No.
probably in the last, what do they have? 10 games left?
No, it's seven. Both teams have 7 games left. The Yankees have one more against the Orioles on the road. Then they finish with 6 games at Yankee Stadium against the White Sox and the Orioles. Yeah. And the Blue Jays finish up with the Royals today, and then they play at home 6 games against the Red Sox in Tampa Bay. The Jays have the much tougher schedule.
Right. They do. But if they win tonight and go, split the 6 with Tampa and Boston, that'll get it done because they have the tiebreaker with the Yankees, right? They're 2 games ahead, but we shall see. I have no confidence in the Jays winning in Kansas City this afternoon. I think they're going to get swept. Their offense is just dried up, and not having one of the best hitters in the league and Bo Bichette in the lineup is hurting. I don't think Anthony Santander is going to be much of a help because he's a Dalton Varsho-esque kind of a hitter, right? It's feast or famine with that guy, and I mean, unless he goes on a heater right out of the gate, I mean, the Jays could be in trouble here. They really could be, and with Max Scherzer pitching so terribly against Kansas City to start this series, and kind of still hanging around. I mean, that's something that the Jays are going to have to contend with. Hey, Max, you're on your way to the Hall. You're one of the great ones. Thanks for helping us get here. But the glaze is over. So that's my 2 cents. We will reconvene in a week and see how it all comes together. If the Yankees win this division, like, I'm going to be so bitter. But I mean, crazier things have happened. Where else are you providing Leafs content these days, Mike?
Well, at Hockey Hot Stove, my daily Leaf blog, and I'm also obviously doing other things for the hockey news, covering the Sabres, the gift that keeps on giving, the Buffalo Sabres, and doing some other podcasts for them as well. So, but the Leafs Convo is my home. So every Sunday, come back here and watch.
Yeah, we appreciate you. What is that like going into the Sabres arena? Like, you're visiting a tombstone at the mausoleum, like on a constant basis. You just can't get over the death. I mean, every time you go in there, is it dreary, or is there a sense of positivity that's just kind of bubbling under the surface?
I mean, the organization tries to put the positive spin on it, but it's tough when you haven't made the playoffs in 14 years. Wow. And honestly, it's like from the fan perspective, because I have many friends who are Sabres fans, it has gone from anger to apathy.
Right.
And Leaf fans, there was that long stretch where they didn't make the playoffs after 2004 to 2013. Then they finally made the playoffs, and then they lose in heartbreaking fashion to the Bruins in Game 7.
Right.
There was anger there. There was still anger after 9 years. After 14 years, there's apathy. They're having trouble selling tickets for the season opener. It'll be a sellout, but if they lose, right, they start slow. This fan base is concentrated on the Buffalo Bills, and they won't even notice the Sabres until the NFL season is over with.
Speaking of the Bills, your next Super Bowl champions, right, Mike?
Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. They're a great team. I'm not going to say, oh, they're going to win the Super Bowl, because that's a curse. No, I'm not doing that.
It's 20 years ago. 20 years ago, Lindy Ruff, Ryan Miller, Danny Briere, Chris Drury, just laying the Leafs out. Thomas Vanek. Just remember, the Leafs would have a 3-goal lead with 2 minutes left in the Sabres.
No, it wasn't 2. It was 8 minutes. I was at that game. They were up 5. The Leafs were up 5-2 with Andrew Raycroft in net, and they lost 6-5. They blew that game. The last 8 minutes, I was at that game, and I was just like, yeah. I mean, the Leafs have actually had more success against the Sabres in Buffalo the last few years.
Yeah. I know. And Brian McCabe became McClutz against the Sabres. So there was a time when the Sabres absolutely owned the Leafs. It's just time has gone by so quickly, Mike, and time has gone by on this show and our show in general. 8 years, 12 years, 14 years, however you want to look at it. Season
Damn.
8 is upon us, and we're really excited. For Mr. Augello in Buffalo, New York, I'm Norm James in London, Ontario. The Leafs Convo for now is out.